What if Roboute Guilliman, the returned Primarch, actually succeeds? What if, against all odds, he manages to drag the crumbling Imperium of man kicking and screaming into a new golden age? Let's travel forward 1,000 years to the 43rd Millennium and imagine what this reformed Imperium might look like. First, the most monumental change, the bureaucracy. Guilliman, the master administrator, would have waged a war not just with bolters, but with spreadsheets and organizational charts. The bloated, inefficient, and often self-serving Adeptus Terra would be a shadow of its former self. Guilliman would streamline everything. The Departmento Munitorum would be hyper-efficient, ensuring armies are supplied on time, every time. The Administratum would be modernized, perhaps even with limited, sanctioned forms of logic engines to handle the sheer scale of imperial data. This isn't about creating a utopia, but about making the machine of government actually work. He would purge the corruption, root out the pointless traditions, and replace them with brutal, logical efficiency. The next massive overhaul would be the imperial military. The Codex Astartes, Guilliman's own masterwork, would finally be updated. No longer a sacred, unchangeable text, it would become a living document again. The separation of the Imperial Guard and the Imperial Navy might be softened, leading to more integrated, flexible battle groups. Imagine combined arms task forces, commanded by leaders chosen for merit, not just lineage, where Guard, Navy, and Astartes elements operate in perfect sync. The Primarch Marines would be the new standard, their numbers swelling to legion-like proportions, but organized into countless, highly specialized chapters. Guilliman would likely reform the High Lords of Terra, perhaps even dissolving the Council, and replacing it with a new Systeman Imperial Senate or a War Council composed of the most capable leaders, regardless of their institutional affiliation. He would be the Lord Commander, the ultimate authority, but he would rule through a system built on competence, not just ancient tradition. But what about the biggest elephant in the room, the imperial cult? Guilliman detests the idea of his father as a god. He wouldn't and couldn't outlaw the faith overnight. That would trigger a civil war worse than the Horus Heresy. Instead, he would perform a delicate, century-long surgery on the soul of the Imperium. He would reframe the narrative. The Emperor would be venerated not as a deity, but as the ultimate exemplar of humanity, the perfect statesman, warrior, and scientist. The Ecclesiarchy would be slowly but surely reformed. Its focus shifted from blind faith to promoting imperial unity, human potential. And the virtues of the Emperor's original vision, the imperial truth, this would be his most difficult and dangerous battle. With a reformed Imperium, humanity's technological state would also see a resurgence. Guilliman would empower the Adeptus Mechanicus, but not without oversight. He'd break the dogma that stifles innovation. With the help of allies like Belisarius call new technologies, reverse-engineered Xenos tech, and even rediscovered Dark Age relics would be carefully reintroduced. This wouldn't be a sudden leap, but a steady, controlled reawakening of humanity's innate genius. We might see better warp travel, more advanced weaponry for the common soldier, and perhaps even the beginnings of new STC creations. So, 1,000 years later, the Imperium of the 43rd Millennium is a very different beast. It's more centralized under Guilliman's direct command. It's more efficient, technologically progressive, and militarily flexible. It's still a grim, war-torn empire, but it's an empire with a future, an empire on the offensive. But a stronger Imperium doesn't mean fewer enemies. In fact, it might mean more dangerous ones. The forces of chaos would be in an absolute panic. A united, resurgent Imperium is their worst nightmare. The Chaos Gods would likely put aside their great game, at least temporarily, to focus all their might on tearing down Guilliman's new order. We'd see unprecedented Black Crusades, led by Abaddon, who would see Guilliman not just as a foe, but as a personal rival for the fate of humanity. The chaos cults within the Imperium would be more insidious than ever, trying to sabotage the reforms from the inside. The Tyranids would remain the ultimate existential threat. A more efficient Imperium means more biomass, a richer feeding ground. The hive mind would adapt. It would birth new horrors specifically designed to counter Guilliman's strategies. The Octarius War would look like a minor skirmish compared to the full-scale hive fleets that would descend upon a galaxy teeming with well-organized life. The war against the Great Devourer would become the defining conflict of the millennium. The orcs, well, orcs are orcs. A better fight is always a good thing. A stronger Imperium would trigger the rise of truly colossal WAAGHs. Imagine Guskull Throcka, or a successor even greater. Seeing Guilliman's revitalized empire as the ultimate challenge, the best scrap in the galaxy. The fighting would be on a scale never seen before, a green tide of unimaginable proportions crashing against the shield of humanity. Then there are the Aldari. Some, like the Inari, might see Guilliman's reformed Imperium as a potential ally of convenience against chaos. But the more conservative Craftworlds and the Drukhari of Camorra would see humanity's resurgence as a terrifying threat. They've always preyed on a weak and divided Imperium. A strong one, expanding and reclaiming its old territory, would push them into a corner, forcing them into open warfare or desperate, shadowy schemes to bring the monkey low once more. And finally, the Necrons. As the Silent King continues to awaken his dynasties, he would find a competitor for galactic dominion. A logical, technologically advancing Imperium led by a Primarch is a far greater obstacle than the superstitious wreck he awoke to. This could lead to a cold war of unimaginable stakes, fought in silent tombs and across dead worlds, or it could escalate into a total war between the ancient masters of technology and humanity's new dawn. But the galaxy is a dangerous place. The enemies are bigger, the stakes are higher, and the wars are more total. See you next time!